Welcome back to another episode of Salt and Lightheartedness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
am Esther.
And I'm Jelene.
Yes, and we are just saying welcome back, welcome back, welcome
Yeah,
back. We
yes.
are officially at episode number 6. Wow.
Is that
Last
CS?
episode,
That's CS.
yeah,
It's
I
not
was,
CA thing.
I was,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so this episode, we are just going to actually, before we get into that, we're going to talk about we'll briefly touch on what we talked about
Yeah.
last episode, which was friendship. Friends.
Oh, it was so good.
How many of us
How
have
many of
them? And so we were talking about in that episode, are you a high maintenance friend? Are you a low maintenance friend? And it was really a good episode. I think
Yes.
actually we concluded that we'll probably need to do an additional friendship episode or maybe
Yes,
a
we
few.
will.
Because there's a lot to be touched on actually in friendship. But if you have
Yeah.
not listened to the episode, run that thing back, go check it out.
You gotta get with ASAP.
Get up to speed because this episode is a fun one.
Oh, boy.
We are talking about.
Yeah.
You want to tell them what we're talking about this episode, Jelene?
Ooh, child. The dating pool. Are you in or are you out? Ooh.
Is you in that thing or is you out that thing?
Yikes. Yikes. Oh my God. That dating pool. Why is it like a dating river? Why it got to be a pool? The pool is stagnant water. The river keeps flowing.
Yeah. In the river. And the river is deeper too. But you know what? Let's before we get all off in this thing, let us just go into it. All right, let's just jump right into this. We can maximize on our time.
I'm gonna put my feet in.
You know, tip your toes in there.
Yeah,
you sure you looking like that? Wow. Wow.
Well, wow. So
But wait, before we get into this, maybe we should talk about our statuses. Should we talk about our status? I think we should talk about our status.
All right.
So
good. I can talk about your status. Are you in the dating pool or not?
I can talk about it. Nah, I'm not in the dating pool. And even when I was in the dating pool, I wasn't in that thing because people are nuts. You hear me? These situations, I was like, baby, y'all don't know. I am not the one or the two. I am friendly, but I am not friendly enough to be sitting there enduring the ninja nonsense that was happening. And you had to step correct if we was going on any kind of date, even for coffee. Well, something to note. Like, let's talk about that a little. Like, what kind of dates are wholly unacceptable in 2024? Because I feel like some of these rules, some of these expectations.
No, it has to start with: are you wholly unacceptable? Don't matter where you go. But if you a freak, you gonna be a freak wherever you go. You're gonna be a freak in the church house. You're gonna be a freak at the park. You're gonna be a freak at the library. So are you wholly unacceptable?
That's the real one.
That's key.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna get into that. There are certain rules, regulations, suggestions that I think are helpful, especially if you're, putting that foot into the dating pool or thinking about jumping on in. There are some things that you might want to consider, but we're going to get into that. I tell you, this episode is about to be fun. We might go over time because there's a lot to cover.
Hold on now. Because I see what you're trying to do there. I see what you're trying to do there. You didn't say what your status was, my good guy. You definitely just kind of glossed right on over that thing. You tried to gloss right over that.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Waiting on what?
Waiting on my husband to find me.
Okay.
I I turned on my GPS, you know, and I hope his GPS is working well, and I hope our signals will meet and he will be able to find me because I think he might be a little lost. He might be using the MapQuest paper version, and I need him to
Not the
use
paper.
yeah, he's using the paper
But
and
you
there's a
know something?
detour and it wasn't
I don't
updated.
know. I don't
So
know. I think if he's using the paper joint, he might be the actual keeper. So maybe that's what's taking him a little longer because these ones using Waze and Google
I
Maps,
mean, how old
maybe
is he
they're
if he's still using the paper joint? I don't know.
my age. But
He's still using that
so
paper joint and taking
listen,
out the map.
we'll let this be a little clarion call. If you got your life right, if you got your mind right, if you're funny, if you're handsome, I'm gonna leave the height out. As long as we're not looking each other in the eyes, and not me. You're not looking her in her eyes, and she ain't that tall. But
Hey,
if you got a little height on you, if you got a little height on you, I'll do that there. You know, don't slide in the inbox if you acting crazy, because we will find you. Don't do it. But if you got your life right and you trying to enter in something that sounds crazy, but if you're trying to date someone
where
that looks like
we going with this?
you, you can casually slide
Entering.
into her DMs, okay?
We gonna get to that
Nice.
too, but ain't no entering. No entering.
Listen,
We will enter his
listen.
gates with thanksgiving
There you go.
and enter
And
his
enter that
courts with
date with praise.
praise.
That's what you're
Okay,
going to do.
that's
You see how this is about
oh,
to
we
go
entering. Right,
1000% to the left.
yay.
Let's bring
Ay,
this
Dios
thing back on
mío.
right. Correct. But if you got your life right, I'm not joking. Hit your girl up. Or you could, you know what? I'll do you a solid. You could hit me up and then
Yeah, I
I'll
was
be
about
the
to
I'll
say,
vet.
see,
I'm good
that
with
was the Holy
vetting.
Ghost. The Holy Ghost was like,
I'm good with
nah, they should go through S. Cause
yeah, I'm a good
she used to
filter.
work for the
I'm good with that.
CIA. Okay, she used to work for the CIA, the FBI. Listen, she'll pull up your records.
Yeah, we'll
Don't
make sure
try no
you're right.
funny business. And then we got the Holy Ghost. So if there's anything,
And that's
he's
the
gonna
real
tell
one.
us. Okay.
He's gonna
Uh,
tell us.
all right, let's finally start. Okay. Uh what conversations did your parents have with you regarding dating? Because I think it really essentially starts at the foundation, right?
Yeah.
And those conversations and those experiences and those feelings that we have towards dating kind of uh, direct us on the road and on the path for the
Yeah.
most part. So you can start.
Um, I was definitely one of those young people that I was not really concerned with dating. Like I know a lot of people were at 14, 15 interested in dating. And just so we're clear, it was not that I didn't think like, oh, there's a cute guy. I was most certainly more involved with shopping, doing what I wanted to do, doing hair. So I was like, all right, boys are there. Like they'll always be there. So, it wasn't like I ever felt pressed to be talking about dating or like when is that time, just like, okay. And so also I think like if my parents ever really tried to have that conversation, I kind of was like, what are we talking
Not
about?
trying to
You know
hear.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
no. Okay. And at the end of the day, like I had an older brother. So I'm like, if anything, I'm just go get that info from your man's, okay? From my man's. He's gonna tell me the real deal. He's gonna tell me the truth. So I really didn't have that conversation with them. I remember, I guess the most notable thing was the purity conference, and we can talk about that
Oh,
later. If
yeah. That might be a
I
whole
think
nother
for sure,
episode, Lord.
not for real. I think that is something because I have many thoughts about it. It was good. There was like my
The
experience with that was
attention,
was good.
the attention is definitely
Yeah.
good.
And so in there, I think we talked about a bunch of different stuff. And so I remember this thing of this makes me laugh to this day because I still feel the
If
same.
I
I
have
remember
the
this thing
picture,
came up
I might throw
about
up that picture.
you can of it was like talking about group dating. And I was thinking, because I guess I don't remember the purity conference. I feel like I was like maybe like around 16, like about to be 16 or so. And so I was like, baby, I'm not finna go on no group date. That's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, even though when typically we hung out, we were in groups, but it was like,
Right.
if I want to go out with one on one, then I will. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
if it's young, if the people are younger, we're all adults in this joint for the most part. So, you know,
Big adults at this
yeah,
point.
like, I mean, if you feel comfortable going on a double date, fine. Maybe but at some point, you're going to have to just hit the single date. But again, like, it's my personality. I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, definitely growing up in my teenage years, it was kind of like this taboo subject.
Hmm.
I never felt the I guess the emotion of it was welcomed. So
Hmm.
uh I just didn't really do it. I would
Let me
talk to
ask you this
people.
question.
I would
Yeah.
talk to people, but
Which
it
is
wasn't like
interesting because
official.
you had younger aunts, right? So like, why did you talk to your aunts, or did you talk to your aunts about dating, or you just kind of like,
I didn't. I didn't.
mm,
Growing up, child, my shirt is open. Oh, but
we don't see.
good. Well, I hope not. But I ain't trying to get a date that way.
Yeah, we ain't
But
selling
I
nothing.
mean, not putting out my aunt's business, but growing up, I used to peek out the window and I would see them go out on dates. And now that I'm like thinking back, they were in their 20s and, early 30s. And I would see them, going out on, little dates and stuff like that. But there was never really any type of conversations or anyone that like kind of pulled me aside and said, this is how it goes. It was more so, uh, boys are these creatures that just have an insatiable appetite for my
Mm,
body. And
mm.
that kind of like just stuck with me in a sense. But there wasn't any type of, now that I look back at it, like healthy dialogue regarding dating and even friendships and relationships with the opposite sex. So,
Let me ask you this. Do you think that, because I don't know, I guess at a certain point in life, you start kind of thinking over like your parents, not as your parents necessarily, but as people, right? And you're like,
yeah.
yeah, they're my parents, but like just the time period in which they came up in, right? Like, not that people didn't date, but at the young ages, like, these today people are talking about dating like relatively young,
Yeah.
13, and people are asking their parents. Like, I could not even imagine saying to my parents at 13, like, I want to date, and them being
Mm-mm,
like,
but they
they would
do.
have been like, they do. But I'm saying, like, in my household, like, my parents are what? My dad's in his 70s, my mom's just hit 70. Like, and the way, in the time of period that they grew up, it was like, what are you talking about dating somebody at these ages? You know what I mean? Like, especially my mom, baby. You ask her, she was
Mm,
probably like, we was up
mm-mm.
at the crack of dawn milking cows. So, it was like, don't even, and not being funny,
Right.
like, it just wasn't a thing. You know, my mom went away to college and, pretty much was navigating college. And I think we did talk about a guy that she dated in college. And, and she like got to the point and she was like, she recognized like, this is not the person for me. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this person, I believe he was going to become like on his way to being a lawyer. And she was just like, I was around his people and I was just like, no, like, this is
Mm-mm.
not
Right.
for me. This is this group, like this is more high maintenance than I am. These people are just very different than I am, and this is ultimately not it. And then she moved up to New Jersey, and that's where she actually met my dad. So, like, I heard their story of dating,
Yeah.
and like she shared that, and my dad shared some like funny stories, but also they weren't necessarily like people who dated a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got married in their 20s, so it's like how much dating was really actually going on. It was a very, for them, it was a very different time. You know what I mean? Like my mom was like fast tracking from South Carolina, going to school, moving up this way, getting work. You know what I mean? Like went on a few dates here and there, but she like it was never anything like very serious with these people because like almost immediately I knew like we ain't gonna make it. You know, so it
It's
was
not
like
gonna work,
there was
right?
never like anybody that they dated for like very long periods of time. You know, I think the only person in my life that, or like when I was younger, and I mean really young, would have been my cousins who were like the same ages as your aunts.
Mhm.
And so they were like in their 20s and they were, you know, out and about. There were two guys, so they were just, and they were like hot boys. So they was all over the place with all the dates, okay? And wow, okay? And yes, you know, versus my cousin who really pretty, you know, had this boyfriend who like they were just like the it couple, you know, but yeah, she was about to kill him one night. And so, you know, like I was just like, okay, stay very far from that. I don't need that because he was a player, you know, he was trying to play and she was like, you
Well,
know. And so those, I guess all the dating knowledge I gathered was from my good friends, right? And we were all the same age for the
oh
most part. So
boy.
we were like,
Yeah.
yeah, what you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there was no like dedicated conversations to dating. And then as you get older, there was definitely no conversations about like, you know, courtship. Well, I remember that word came up. And now you're like, man, you got
Oh my
dating on this
god.
and you got courtship on this
Like,
one. And what's the
what?
difference? What is
Exactly.
what am I doing?
Right.
And you know, I think that well we looked this up, right? Like what was the main difference between dating and courtship? And it was right that courtship is with the intentional like you're dating with the intention of marriage at the end, like marriage
Right.
is the goal,
Right.
versus dating, which
What
is
is
you
the
know
intention behind dating?
dating could be a plethora of things. It could be hookups. It could be, you know, I'm just out here for a good time, not a long time. You know, it could be just, you know, what God knows what. You know, it doesn't mean
Okay.
that it's ending in marriage or even long term relationship. You
Right.
know, it could be like I'm just dating to see, you know, how many people I can. You know, who know? Dating has, you know, no boundaries really. You know, and so you know,
I
in
mean, do you think that there are any specific challenges or pressures of like modern dating versus like previous generations? I feel like previous generations had it easier. Say what you want. I feel like they had it
Right.
easier.
I don't think so. I think it just looked different, right? Like,
Really?
yes, I think that, well, you know what? Let me back that up a little bit, right? Because I feel like societal standards for many things have just went down significantly. So while
Mm-hmm.
before there's always been a person, a man or a woman who was just like nutty and they're going to do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? They'll act
Yeah.
inappropriate. Like that's been since time immemorial. But I do think now, today, people will do things, you know, and not think twice about it, where before people had some measure of shame to them. So
Yeah, we have a co-host in the house.
if I tell y'all what this girl is actively doing, then I knew she was doing it. I just let her do it. But Chloe's actually eating dirt from my plant. And so she just came over here with a mouthful of dirt. Hey, you know what? It's above me now.
It
It is
is.
absolutely
But
above me.
she's fine. She's fine. The Lord made dirt. Dirt can't hurt.
My plant probably ain't fine though. You know, these fiddle figglies are funny. So, you know.
I mean, a little protein. Oh, Chloe. But as you were saying, you forgot.
I don't
You
remember what I
forgot what
was
you.
saying actually. Oh no, I was saying like societal standards have gone down, right? And so people before they might not so openly and honestly mistreat someone that they're interested in, right? They might
Mhm.
politely just say, I'm not interested, right? Or this isn't going to
Yeah.
work. But today, people will just ghost you. And, you know,
Mhm.
or do people just do wild things, you know? And again, and then you have all these other mediums of meeting people. we
Yeah.
have online. Like before it was like, hey, this is my friend, this is my coworker. It was like
Yeah.
very
Yeah. You went
interpersonal.
to school
Today
with
there's so
them. Yeah.
many, yeah, there's pressures to think like, oh, the man has to do every and anything. I'm not going out to eat if it ain't to a 5-star restaurant. Well, I
Listen,
believe for sure.
they was taking people out to the juke joint and getting 25-cent hamburgers. And now they
Listen,
married 65 years plus now.
or even like
Just
my
saying.
father, right? My father actually got brownies for my mom. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, like they went on other dates, but like they weren't rich or balling. You know what I mean? So their dates were very intentional, but they were very like, I need to pause because Chloe's about to send me into orbit.
So like going back to just the responsibilities and I guess the demands that you brought up regarding like dating today and like the cost of the average date and what have you. Yeah, okay, in 1955 it cost a nickel to take the date out and get a cheeseburger and a shake and some fries.
For
I'm
sure.
exaggerating. But um, I think what we've heard on social media is that women are demanding these big, lavish dates every single week or every day. They're demanding these obnoxious gifts that, cost more than a car. And um, are we really? I don't think that is the actual norm. I think there are exceptions where there are women who do look at dating or do look at, a man as like this cash
I
cow
think that's actually what I was going
opportunist.
to kind of touch on before, right? Like I agree. I think that I'll use myself for example. Like let me kind of back this up, right? It kind of goes back to like maybe how you were raised, right? I am the only girl in my
Mm-hmm.
family, right? And so my first view of relationships were how my dad treated my mom, right? And how my dad treated me. And
Right.
so, my expectations were high because I was like, okay, my dad treats my mother wonderfully. You know what I mean? Like he does this for her, he does that for her,
Yeah.
unwarranted. It's not like she's asking or begging him to do X, Y, and Z for him. He just does it because he loves my
Right.
mom, and then in turn, when I got to a certain age, Valentine's Day, they were buying me something. There was a card for me. There, you know what I mean? There were things that I just came to expect
Right.
that, and it wasn't necessarily anything like over the top or like extra lavish. It was just like this is a token of our love for you, right? And like varying degrees
Right.
of expense,
Right.
I'll say, right? So there was never like I'm always expecting the grand,
Yeah.
right? And then when it came down to dating as an adult, I was like, I mean, I can do all the things that I want for myself. So it wasn't like I was expecting some man to do these things for me
Right.
because I'm like, me, if we're going to eat, we're going to eat, right? We want to get something, we're going to get
We gonna
exactly
eat.
what we want. You know what I mean? And so there was always that, like, you have your own. So somebody coming along trying to, I guess I will say, entice you with things isn't necessarily, it's like, okay, thank you. It's not like I'm expecting you to take me to a
Thank you.
restaurant I won't take
Right.
myself. I think that's a thing. Um,
Right. I think that's the thing because I've been out on a date and someone asked me if they took me to Applebee's, would that be okay? Okay, we can go to Applebee's. I mean, if
yeah,
that's your thing, but am I demanding that you take me to some five-star restaurant? No. But would I like would I go there at this point? I'm not gonna go there at this point. I don't eat there anymore. Right. Have I? Oh yeah, we used to take from
Yeah.
Applebee's,
And
baby.
it's not
Okay,
like,
Applebee's was a good
listen, especially that
time.
old,
Okay,
happy hour joint, right? In the evening, like your money can go
and
far
man,
and wide
listen,
there.
woo,
And there's a time and a place I think
yes,
for
I
for
get
those
it.
kind of dates, if that's your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't like fast food or like those kind of places, then it's never gonna appeal to you. I think
Right,
though it's a learning curve for someone,
right,
especially if you're particularly just beginning dating, right? It's like if that's like there's so many circumstances. Like maybe it's late. That's the only thing that's open, right? Maybe there's, you guys went to a show or something like that or a movie, and then when you come out, like there's limited things open in your
yeah.
area. So hey, we're going there, we're gonna grab something from there. Or a diner, or like
But what if it's
if it's not, and
not?
then but I think
What
again
if
too,
it's
like maybe
not?
that's his wheelhouse. Everybody doesn't have your taste buds or mine. You know what I mean? Like, believe me, I feel like we can eat at the most
Uh,
expensive of places as and hole in the walls too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
yeah,
It's. I think that it's great to have what you prefer, right? And I think when someone's trying to win the affections of someone, right? Or just trying to get them to know them better, like there's questions you can ask, right? Like I think trying to gauge what kind of food you like if you have a limited palate, right? And like that's okay because everybody doesn't like caviar. You know what I mean? And just because it's expensive doesn't
right.
mean you gotta like it. And so I think that just I don't know. I heard somebody say that they don't want coffee dates. Um, that's not a date. I'm like, it is a date. If you're going out and you're getting to, what are your expectations, right? I
Right.
guess another thing is like,
I think also I think for me it's also the intention
mhm,
behind it. Um if you're just throwing something together and like we're discussing going out to eat and this is like a week in advance or several days in advance and you're just like, hmm, I guess we can just go to Applebee's and you're not really putting any type of effort, thought
yeah, because
into anything.
when there's been no
Um
thought. Yeah.
that that communicates something to me. Whereas, okay, yeah, you might think of Applebee's and then, you have something else planned. Okay, cool. But if you're just going with something because that's the easiest for you or, you're not really putting much thought into it, that's communicating um how you might view me and how you might see me in a sense because of the
Mhm.
effort behind it.
I I
You
do.
get what I'm
I
saying?
definitely think that there's so much here. I think dating, and this might sound funny, but I feel like dating has become overly complicated. I feel like, and not just dating, I feel like many things in life have become overly complicated, right?
Yeah.
I'll give, like,
Yeah.
uh, so here goes something I'll just throw in the conversation, right? Like, how much is expected? Like, is there an expectation on how much one should spend on a first date?
No.
So
Because
for you, so
my rule of
you're
thumb, and
saying
I'm speaking
no.
for myself,
Okay.
right? I'm speaking for myself. When I go out on a date, and it's any date, I'm always going to get whatever I can
Yeah,
pay for. I'm going in it with the intention of if they decide that they don't want to pay for my plate,
big
I'm
facts.
good. I don't need you to pay for my plate. So I'm not going into it where I'm like, oh, this is a free meal. I'm about to get
Yeah.
me this. I'm gonna get me all the lobster. I'm gonna get me the prime rib, and then I'm gonna get me
Right.
four
Meanwhile, I can't even
desserts.
eat all of
I'm
that.
I'm not going into
Yes.
right. I'm going in yeah, right. I'm going into it as I'm having a meal with somebody who I'm interested in learning more about. And yes, we're gonna have great conversation over some great
Okay.
food. I'm gonna pick the things that I would normally get if I was paying out of my pocket, and that's that. If he decides to get, prime rib and all the appetizers, cool. That's what he hopefully can afford.
I,
Okay.
I'm chuckling.
Hopefully he can afford. when
I'm
he's
chuckling
ordering.
because I actually have, like, I didn't date a lot, and I think I explained why, right? Like, I know what I like. It doesn't take me, if I met someone when I was single, all right, that I was, they wanted to take me out, right? In the first 5 to 10 minutes, like I already knew if this was going somewhere or not. I'm not one of those people who, you know, I don't need to sit through a whole first date to know if I'm gonna see you again, And so there was this guy, he just kept asking to take me out. And I knew that ultimately I really like had no interest in dating this person. I told him from the gate, like, I don't want to go out, but he just kept pursuing me. And so circumstances,
Like, is this Kevin
no,
Hart?
no. Stop. Before somebody really think this is, let me tell you, this one did resemble another celebrity though.
No, we have nicknames.
This
We got
one,
nicknames.
I
That's
don't
that's the
remember what
thing.
his nickname would
Us
have
girls,
been.
we got nicknames for every person. Every person we date, every person we're interested in, every person
Big
who's
X.
interested in us,
Well,
we will
I don't
have a
know if
nickname
anybody else
for
does, but
you.
we
Okay.
certainly do.
But
And so this guy, the circumstances were like just right that it was raining really bad out here in New Jersey. And I was like, you know what? Like, I knew that he didn't live too far from me. And so I was like, you know what? He didn't have a car. And I was like, I'll drop you off. Right. And so he's like, all right, cool. And so then,
mhm.
like, I already knew this was going downhill because when we got to my car, your man said something about my Bible. And he was like, oh, you got one of them in here. And so I was like, okay. Like, first of all, I'm gonna leave you right there at the bus stop. But I was like being nice because it was like a torrential rain. Like it was like an awful rainy day. So I was just being nice, right? Caleb was with me, so like I was fine without him, but he was there. So it was like an extra level of, you know.
Right.
And that day that traffic was just
Safety.
so bad and he was just talking, talking, talking. Also,
Oh my god.
talk about somebody who could not read the room. He was just talking. He was so full of himself. And I was like, Lord, I'm about to leave my own car on the side of the road because I was so irritated. But after that, I was like,
No.
you know what? I done endured this foolery. Your man's, guess what we're going to do tonight? We going out to eat, okay, on you. And so we went to, actually, he asked me if I would take him to the mall to return something or other. And I was like, sure. Now, I think that this is
Sure.
something that I should probably share about myself. Sometimes I will just let situations go to see how far they're going to go. Right. And so this was one of those days. I was like, I have nothing to do. I don't have any clients tonight. Sure, I'll take you to the mall. And so we go to the mall, go to the store, and already like I'm like, my spirit's like a little vexed because I'm already like, this is going to the garbage bin, actually. Like, this is going
Nowhere.
absolutely
Right.
nowhere.
Right. Right.
And so we did a couple of things. I'm like, okay, let's knock out two birds with one stone. So we went to Jersey Gardens at the time, and there wasn't like very many restaurants, but there was, I think it was like Chili's. And I was like, I think that might have been the first time
Right.
I probably ever ate at Chili's. And I was like, there's a restaurant right down here. Like, let's sit down and
Mhm.
let's actually have a conversation. And so, we'll go to eat. And I'm like, how high could the bill be in Chili's? And it was like legitimately a like, happy hour,
Right. Get you some baby back
okay, so I'm
ribs.
like, I
Right.
go in there and I'm with like you.
Yeah.
Like I was raised to, cover what you can eat. Eat what you can cover. And so I knew I was good regardless of what I ate, right? Or what I chose.
Right.
And so he gets in there and he's just an ordering fool. Okay. He is like, let's get an appetizer.
Huh.
Let's get this drink. He have a drink. I'm like, I don't even think I
Okay.
had a drink because I'm like, I
Let's
don't know this
go.
person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was just like, it was like
Right.
the middle of the week. So it just wasn't a thing for me.
No.
And I was like, all right. So he orders one drink. And the first thought was like, why is he ordering that drink? It was like some tutti fruity side. I'm like, this is stupid.
It was
Like,
fruity.
why did he
Mm.
order that? And I was just like, I don't know why that kind of like struck me. Probably because like no men that I know drink like those, like, like a girly drink is what I would call it, right? Like that's it. And listen,
Listen,
it was
I'm
his
not gonna
preference,
say
like, but
nothing.
it made
It
me
it
chuckle. I
maybe
won't
he
I
want
won't
maybe
lie.
he wanted a little
Listen, well, he must have liked
fruity.
it because he ordered
Okay.
he ordered the second one, so he enjoyed the drink, right? And I was just like, okay, whatever. And so Then the food comes out, and this is,
Wait. Did it have a little
don't
umbrella
give me a
in
lie
it?
because I feel like it did, but in my mind, it did. Oh, it had the little pina colada
Oh,
joy,
cherry.
but it was
Oh,
definitely like one
cherry.
of those kind of drinks. And so, the food comes out, and this is where things absolutely started going downhill. He reached over to my plate and ate like my French fries. When I tell you,
No.
I was like, I
No.
know my face showed exactly what I.
No. Wait, he didn't
He did
ask
not
or
ask.
nothing.
He
He
reached
just reached
directly over
over.
that table and ate my French fry. And I was like, oh, now you can have the rest of them.
No.
You can have them all. And so, I
Right.
was already like, like it was like already I was like, I could just get up and just leave this whole
Over it.
situation, and I was just like, but I'm
Right.
riding the way, right? Um, so then we eat our food, we doing all this talking. The man should just order it. He just order. I don't remember what the man ordered, okay? But at the end, the waiter
No.
comes out, he
Oh,
gives
okay.
the bill to the young man. And just so I'm clear, we were young. I was in my 20s. He was actually older than I was, right? And like not
Oh,
by much, I would say maybe 2 years or so, right? And so he gives he gives the
why am
young
I
man the bill.
nervous?
Young man opens the joint. He looks at it. He says he does a little like that. So immediately I'm like, let me get my debit card out because I already see where this is going, right? And so he looks at it, he closes it, and he doesn't say anything. And so, I'm like, I've already calculated what I owe plus the tax and the tip. So I already knew I was good. And I didn't even eat like my bill was like $20 single, like by myself. And
Right, because like
then he
it's
goes on to
chilly.
ask me, hey, would you mind covering this bill? Because I just bought a couple of things from Saks and I don't have it.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. No, wait. I don't think I heard you right. Wait. Uh, you said covering your bill. That's what you
The
said?
bill. The bill in its entirety. And I ain't gonna hold you.
Because
The bill
because
might have
why?
been
Because he went to SAT.
$60. And he is the one who ate the bulk of.
That stack was balling out.
And let me
I would
tell
have
you
grabbed that
something.
stack bag so
It
quick.
wasn't nothing in there I needed. And so I said, oh, I got you.
Oh no, I'm talking
Look,
about to
I said, I
return.
got you. I paid that bill and he had to run and catch up to me because guess what? I also had to drop your man off at his house. And so, it was one of those situations where I was like, this is exactly why I don't waste my time playing around with people. I knew it wasn't going anywhere. You know what I mean? And I was like, if this
Right.
is what people think they're going to do when they take me out, you can keep it, And so when I went to work,
No.
because all these people in my office knew that he was like always asking to take me out. Like he would do this in the public. Like, so it wasn't just like he would always ask people in front of, oh, I'm trying to get her to go out with me. She won't go out with me. And so when I went to work, I did the due diligence of saying, guess what? We went out
Yes.
and he left me with the bill. I had zero problems airing him out in that
Yeah.
office. And so, and he wasn't
And I
a
had to
coworker,
drop
so
him
it was
off.
fine. Yeah. And so when I tell you the looks on everyone's faces, but I was like, y'all knew this is who that guy was. You know what I mean? I just had
Right.
time that day. But, I was like, if this is what this looks like, I can understand why women just be
I don't
taking their
want that.
friends out and hanging out with their friends because, well, child, some of these friend stories ain't much better. But I mean, people have genuinely good friendships. Like I can
No.
understand why people like I'm good on the dating scene because the way people will, and believe me, I'm also not a
Yeah.
person, and you can tell me what you think of this. Splitting the bill is not a big deal for me, right? Like great, you can cover the bill, I can cover the bill. One day I might cover, one day you might cover it.
Right.
Splitting the bill is
Right.
not a thing for me, right? Like
Yeah.
I understand some people are like flabbergasted when that happens, but I will say early on, right? And even just throughout the relationship, I feel like it's not
Mm-hmm.
all on you, right? But that's again, that's me and my
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
situation. But most people have never asked me to split a bill. Most men I've been out with have not asked. He did, but he was, again, like,
You're
I
right.
knew, I could see the writing on the wall from the jump. I feel like we had to be realistic too.
I think as women, we do know. I think as women, we do know because I mean, I've been in situations where I knew that the dude was broke.
Right. It's
Okay,
not
I knew
funny,
he
but
didn't have
it's
it.
like, and
But then it's not like you just step into a little bit of that
because
delulu
that's something that
that
we got to be real with, right? Like, I feel
mysteriously.
like there are plenty of us who
Yeah,
step into Delulu land and then be trying to act like, what happened? Like, what happened is,
what happened? Why do I have to pay for the bill? You knew you didn't
but
have
you know
no
what I think is
money,
actually
girl.
diabolical in those matters?
Like,
The ones who saw Delulu land, entered into it, and then want to come out and be talking about, can you believe he did X, Y, and Z? Like, girl, and
yeah,
like, listen, it's fair, especially
no,
like
don't do it.
especially when you're in like your early 20s, right? Or maybe I will give you this. Maybe you've been one of them ones who was in a relationship for a very long time from a young age. And so maybe you're just like in your late 20s, early 30s, coming into dating, and it's very new and different for you, right? And so maybe you caught a stray.
Right.
Don't catch it two times. I think that
Pew
it's
pew.
okay to say
Okay.
like some dates are just not great, but I think also too it is super important to voice things that, especially if there's something about this person that you like, right? And like you're a little disappointed. And so maybe you're like, I don't want to vocalize that I didn't like this part of the date because you think, oh, maybe he's not going to want to see me again. I think
Right.
it's important to just be honest, right? Because maybe you're, especially when you're not no learning someone, right? They don't know you like that. You can think someone's reading this, it's right. Like at the end of the day, if he says, oh, well, I'm not willing to do X, Y, and Z, then you're like, okay, that's it. No harm, no foul. Next person. But dating is definitely interesting. You know, I today in 2024, some of the stuff I see online, my heart actually aches for people
Maybe
who want to date, and then
it's for
you see
me
these
because I'm still
things.
out here
And
and it's
but I
cool.
think too, I think this is a part of the problem, right? I think a lot of what we see comes from like social media, or like these hot takes that people
Hmm.
share. And so it's
Right.
not I don't
Right.
think, right, if I'm being honest and optimistic, right, I do not believe that this is the dating pool at large. I think it's a very small portion of the dating pool that is getting the spotlight, right? I think it's like the net. The net is like always in your ear. You're like, ah. And this is obviously because people are like, you're
Right.
drawn to it because you're like, my God, the audacity. You know, I do think that there are very
Right.
solid men and women out here, both saved and unsaved, who are
Absolutely.
quality people. But I think a lot of times y'all are all hiding in your homes, or you're at work, or, hiding in your business, or, you're trying to advance yourself in those capacities. And so you're not out and about, maybe you're not really a social butterfly in that capacity, right? That you're not like out at this place or that place, or, so it's kind of hard
Right.
to find quality people. At least people step up and say, hey, I have this friend that, maybe you guys want to, you know I love the idea of introducing people who are, not that you're like, oh, this is a love connection, but like, hey, you're single, you got a good head on your shoulders, you're quality.
But I
Go
see
ahead.
something to that because people do that. And it's like, girl, you know you
But
wouldn't
see,
date
that
this
that's not
person,
what I'm talking about. You know what
okay?
I'm talking about. I'm talking about like,
But
don't play in
that
nobody's face
that's
now.
more of
Don't
the case. And it's like you know you wouldn't
And
date
well,
this
I
person.
speaking for myself,
So,
I would
I
never.
I thank you so
I have
much.
not ever.
Right. But I'm just saying, you wouldn't, but in my experience, okay, you ha- they be like, well, I know Roger. Roger, Roger is a great guy. Roger this and the other. But then when you look at Roger, you meet Roger, You're like, how in the world
Did
did
you
you
think
think
Roger was
that
going to
this
be a
would
good?
be a good fit
But
with
also, let
me?
me say this. I think that it also comes down to knowing someone, right? Um,
Yeah,
I believe that I know the people that I know that I would ever consider doing something like that with well, right? And I would, while there might be a thing that I'm like, oh, this isn't necessarily her checklist, but if it's not something that's crazy, you know what I mean? Then I would still be like, okay, give
right,
it a shot,
right.
right? Because, and I mean, this person has the essence of like the things that actually matter. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he might be a couple of inches off. Maybe that's the, and I'm not talking about a mini, but hear what I'm saying. Like maybe he's not 6 feet, maybe he's 5'8". You know what I'm saying? Stop. Don't
I
send me into
mean,
orbit today because I'm about to go.
um, a
But even
mini? Did you just call him a
I
mini?
did. I did.
A bite
One
size?
size.
A miniature?
But
A
listen,
Milo?
even in that, at this point, I'm saying that if this person is like an actual has checks off all the boxes that really matter, right? Will you be so foolish? Because you know my life. Would I be so foolish to throw the baby out with the bathwater? And I almost was. And baby almost went with the tub
Well,
in that water. Okay, because miss
well,
me. Listen, but
well.
thank God for friends.
Oh,
Thank God for
listen,
friends. You know, but I think really,
that's a
you have
story.
to, for sure, say to yourself, like, I know this person. Would this person really, actually, truly be happy with this person I'm presenting, right? And but outside of that, I don't know how people be online dating. Let me tell you, I have seen some wonderful stories, but in my mind, and I think
This is a
that it
whole
is.
nother
I think for
episode
me, like why
because
I never ventured into that is because I used to watch
hmm.
a lot of I.
So wait a minute. You don't consider Black Planet online dating?
You know
Because
what I'm
back
talking
in
about.
the
I'm talking
day,
about like
that's how you
real
met
systems
people.
that exist for that solely. Not like, Instagram. There's a lot of people. There's a couple of couples that I follow who actually met on Instagram. They're married.
And the sliding
Yes,
in the
and they are
DM?
married and they're doing well. And and I'm just
Wow.
going, okay, it's a big world.
Mm.
Think about that. It's a big world out here. So,
The only people in my DMs be
that
scammers
listen, that's
and
the other thing. Sometimes there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's such in my DMs," or there's a lot of people in there, and like tell the truth, it's a lot of spamming. Okay, it's a lot of foolery in there, and just because it's a lot of
yeah.
people, it don't mean it's quality people, right? So there's that. Like,
No.
I really do believe that there are a lot of people who really want to be married, right? And I just think you have
Right.
to expand or open your mind to different things, right? Like different sections of the country,
Right.
right? Like I saw this girl, she was like, girlfriend was in China. Like once they got over here, like it's a big world, and obviously most times you're gonna start locally, right? But yeah, expand in
Right.
2024, especially if you don't like what you're seeing locally. And not that you don't like what you're seeing, but you know what I'm saying.
Or expand into another race.
I said expand. That
I
wasn't just for, expand.
I mean, expand your
Yeah.
horizons, because yeah, I don't believe into, to go into this scarcity
Yeah.
mindset, right? And especially pertaining to the ratios of Black men to Black women and Black men that are available to Black
Yes.
women. Um, but playing around with the idea of opening my horizons, you know,
I
essentially, I know God knows exactly what I need and what I want. So I know He's gonna hook me up. But
let me tell you.
hmm,
So I think too that there is something we've talked about this before. I think when you are raised in church, right? That, and we'll use the purity conference as like our parameters, right? You're taught like there's a person for each person who desires to be married, right? Because there's some people who have the gift of singleness. They don't desire to be married, they don't desire to have children,
Right.
and they are
Right.
1000% uh confident and happy in that place, right? They are the rich auntie, they are the rich uncle, they are just enjoying,
Yes.
they are called to singleness. And I think that's beautiful. There are also, I think for the rest of us who want or have that desire to be married, they're like, there's that person for you. And I will speak for me, it's like as a child, you tend to take stuff very literally, right? Like,
Right.
okay, so you're like, there is a singular person out here for me. And while
Right.
obviously you're going to marry
Let's call him
one
Tom.
person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I've come to
Right.
learn, or in my experience, I'll say, when you meet someone who seems like the right thing, right? Or like you're like, oh, for that time in your life, this person checks all the boxes, right? Then
Right.
you're like, could this be the one? Right? And so then you start treating the one, they're the prospective one, like that's your spouse. And a
Right.
lot of times it will allow you to run past pink flags, red flags, stuff that you're like, okay, this ain't the
Orange.
person. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I'm trying to
Magenta.
make it work. You're trying to say, like, is this the person? Is this my guy? Is this my
Yeah.
girl? And we are oftentimes more head over
Right.
heels than we should be in these relationships, right? I think it wasn't until I was well into my 20s that I was like, instead of thinking like that, right? And thinking like, oh, there's just, every person I meet, like, is this my prospective spouse? Like, long term, my husband? I think that you should date with intention, right? Like, if you're interested in being married, obviously, I think those conversations should be,
Right.
especially if this is getting like more serious than not, those are conversations that should be had
Mm-hmm.
very early on, even if marriage is just on your horizon. Not that it's tomorrow, but if you're like, I would like to be married, I don't see any problem with saying those things date one or two, because I'm going to tell you what it's going to do. It's going to clear that room.
Right.
If the person is not interested in being married, if they're upright, they're going to be like, well, I don't
Right.
ever want to be married, or I don't see that in the next 5 years for myself, so you can get on up out of there. You know what I mean? I don't care how fine he or she is.
Yeah.
If they're,
You don't waste
yeah,
anybody's
I
time.
believe
Right.
in doing those things.
Well, like piggybacking on that, when do you think someone should have the conversation, especially if you're a Christian and you're abstaining from sex? When do you think that should be a
I
discussion?
mean, for me, all of that stuff is upfront and early, because I don't want anybody to have the wiggle room to be like, well, you
So
led
like
me on.
first
I
date?
got zero. You know my life. I'm gonna ask you. I will ask you your credit score on the first date. I don't care. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't care, but there's things in my life that I always knew I wanted, right? And so why would I be playing around with someone who doesn't want those things, right? Like, and then what's
Yeah.
the shame in that? Like, I'm not having sex until I get married. So then that person say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's on
There's
you.
no
You
thing.
could you can do whatever you want. I'm out." Like, I think that's fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you not say those things up front? Because
Right.
otherwise, it feels like a little deceptive. You know what I mean? If you're that nervous that someone's going to run out on you after date one or two, and if you say that, that's not your person.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have
Yeah.
to agree with it, but if you're letting it be known, like, this is me, this is what I'm into, this is what we're not doing.
And I think as women, or even well, also mention men who are Christian and abstaining, you kind of know going into that first date where someone might stand.
Yes, I will say, particularly if you recognize that a person is for real about their walk with the Lord, right? And that's not to say
Yeah.
that, because I don't want someone to hear this and think that I'm saying if you have backslid on abstinence, right? Because let's be real, that happens, right? That doesn't mean you just throw the whole situation out, right? And I also, I
Please
don't think
don't.
that's a conversation that need to come up if you plan on abstaining. Maybe that's
Right.
something as you guys grow down the line, you could say, hey, this was a I had this hiccup here, but I've been on the straight and narrow since. Um, but yeah, I think those are things that should come up early. And like you said,
Yeah.
if you're getting, people present themselves all kind of ways. I will say that too. Sometimes it looks like it's going one way, and then the fruit of that person's life starts actually showing. And I will say this, when the fruit of
Right.
that person's life
Right.
starts showing and it's looking like it ain't good fruit, hit the brakes. You know what I mean? Um, Men or women.
Immediately.
It's like, don't, you wouldn't play around with,
Okay.
why play around? And I understand that sometimes it looks like,
Right.
oh, this is gonna be a long time. I'm never gonna meet the person. And like, you always want the best, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's just not worth,
Absolutely.
just for company's sake. You know what I mean? Just hanging out with anybody or somebody who can pay for the restaurant, or
No.
like that.
Because before you know it, you'll definitely get yourself hemmed up in situations that you never even intended to be. You're compromising in what you're originally setting forth to do. And then before you know it, you somehow develop some type of feelings for someone, and then
Yeah,
you're
and let
stuck.
me tell you, in 2024, just say no to situationships. It's a big no. It's a
Just
big
say no to
no. Like, you
dating.
are worth, men and women, you are both worth more than that.
Absolutely.
Way, 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 way more than that. That's not God's best for you. I'm here to tell you. Okay. And I think
Absolutely.
the other thing
Absolutely.
is, dating should be fun. If it's getting to the point that it feels like it's just not, reevaluate, go back to the drawing board. I think that I will speak for myself. When I started dating my husband, I had to tell myself actively, enjoy the process. Let this person lead. You know what I mean? Like, let him open the door for you, because this is funny, but maybe this is going to help someone. We were going to Target one night. I will never forget this. And so I don't even know if we were like
Mhm.
officially dating at this point. But, I'm so accustomed to doing everything myself and, just just doing my own thing, that, and I'm very quick, right? And so, like, I was like in the store, right? And so one day he's like, Esther, like, by the time I'm getting out of my car, you're in the store. I didn't even realize that I was like, just, I'm so accustomed to, okay, I'm getting out of the car, I'm going to the store, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I didn't even realize I was leaving him back there
Out.
at all. And so I had to, like, I was actually
Right.
talking to myself, like, slow down, let him take the door, let him grab the
Right.
door for you. Like, I
Right.
had to do that, to let him lead. A lot of times we're so fast. You even
Right.
plan the date. We will do everything. We'll do everything, and
Okay.
it's like,
Okay. I I guessed.
I'm like, you just have to take it one date at a time, okay? And I think too, like,
Yeah.
being for real, like, and just having open and honest conversations, right? Like, we went on this date, I enjoy your company, but I don't like this, right? And I don't think it's nitpicking, right? Because I think that it might work out in your behalf, that you guys go on a couple more dates and maybe it works out, right?
Right.
Maybe this person says, okay, it's something I can change about myself because maybe no one brought it up. I think that's another thing today. People are so quick to just be like, this ain't gonna work. They don't give feedback, right? Because they're like, I'm not really worried about what you do with the next person, but you should
Right.
be. And because prayerfully, somebody will do that for maybe the person that you're considering dating, right? Maybe they'll be like, hey, women don't like when you do this, or, Applebee's might be your favorite. I don't know why
Right.
we picking on Applebee's today, but, Applebee's, Longhorn, or any
Listen, I
place might
don't
be your
know,
favorite place.
but
But hey, maybe you want to try to go a little upscale, or maybe you want to go local, try a local spot. Like, sometimes, like, there's so much to consider when you're dating people. Like, maybe this person didn't
right.
grow up going to like mom and pop restaurants or local restaurants or trying
Right.
different foods. Like, there's so much there. I can say that, and I know someone might be like, oh, it's not my job to do da da da. Like, in real life,
But there's a way to actually give back input. Let's say Ralph, we'll
Okay.
use that name. Ralph suggests, okay, hey Jolene, I'd like to take you to Applebee's. I don't eat at Applebee's. I would enjoy trying out a new restaurant, in town. So instead I might say, oh, Applebee's, okay. I don't really eat at Applebee's, anymore. But are there any other restaurants around that area that, you haven't tried before? I'd love to try something new with you. And so that still gives him the control of, yeah, finding another place and also letting him know that I don't necessarily care for Applebee's or, you know, a chain
Yeah.
restaurant like that.
I think
But it's not
like, ew,
saying,
don't nobody
oh,
eat that. Why you like that?
why are you taking me to Applebee's? Like, that's mad disrespectful. I don't, it doesn't have to be that. It could just simply be a conversation like, hey, I don't really care for Applebee's. Is there somewhere else, nearby that we can maybe try together that you haven't been to? Or, or what's your favorite, meal? Let's see if we can
I
find
think
another
you
restaurant
actually
that
just
has
said
that.
something that's really good and might be worth, helping. This might be helpful to somebody. Asking what the favorite meal is really is probably an even better thing than being like, hey, have you tried this restaurant or whatever? Because at least that way you're like, okay, I know what kind of food this person prefers, right? And so then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, while that might not be your favorite spot, you're like, oh, okay, let me see what has a similar, you know what I mean? And then sometimes it just don't work out,
Right.
right? And it's okay. I think
And
that
it's
like, or
okay.
even if it's 5 dates in and like there's just something that you're like, I can't put my finger on it, but it just this doesn't it's not going in the right direction.
It doesn't feel right.
It's okay to have
That's
an
fine.
amicable split and be like, you know what? I really enjoyed the times that we had together, but it's just not working for me. Like it doesn't have to, and if the person asks you,
And knowing when to have that
yeah,
conversation, because I've had a experience where I enjoyed going out with someone. We just had a good time, going to different places, eating at different restaurants. And I mean, months went by and I never felt that spark, but I enjoyed their personality. And then it was literally maybe about 9 months in, which I think I took
for
too
sure.
long to have certain
Yeah.
conversations. And I think there was probably this hope of this attraction switch that would
Mm,
just click and go on, but it never clicked because
yeah.
we weren't compatible in that sense.
Mm,
And he had a discussion with me, and the funny thing is I felt the exact same way. He was just like, I really enjoy like spending time with you, going out, but the romantic attraction is not there. And I didn't want to say, bruh,
you should
me
have
too.
like
I feel the same way because I didn't want it to
but
come off
I feel
as
like since you
the,
guys
petty in a
no, I feel
sense.
like since you guys had already had that like
There was nothing for me
yeah,
to
like I feel like once you
gain.
already
There
have
was
that
nothing
like
for me to
that
gain at
sense
that
like
point,
a- and I feel like well let me ask you this because I think I know my answer, but I'll ask you this because you're in hindsight, when do you think at what date number do you think it would have been best for you to bring up like, hey, this like I like you platonically. You know what I mean? Like what date would should that have been?
Uh, you want to know the truth?
Yes.
Truly, honestly, it would have been that first
Mm-hmm.
date.
Mm-hmm.
I just was not
So
attracted to
you
him.
wouldn't you would mm-hmm,
He
mm-hmm.
was talking to me. No, he was talking to me. I remember it. He was talking to me, and I took a commercial break. I was there, but I was not interested. I wasn't interested, but I enjoyed hanging out, going to different places. I'm a foodie. I enjoy different places to eat. We had like different experiences. We went to different festivals. We went to different museums. we had a good time, and he was a
And
Christian. So yeah, the conversation
you
that we
let
would
this
have, like,
ride for 9 whole months?
because people, some people say, sometimes the attraction isn't
I,
always
let's
there. So if you
let's
have a good
pause right there
friend,
though, right? Because there is certainly, as you said something about the spark, right? And I will say this, you don't necessarily have to have the spark, right? Like, and especially not after date one. No, I'm telling you, right? Like,
the spark should come. I feel like the
it
spark should
depends.
come. Within
No,
9
no, no.
months,
I
you
didn't. Oh,
don't
no, 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 no,
feel
no, no,
any
no, no,
type
no,
of
no, no, no,
spark.
no, no. I'm not talking about 9 down the joint. I am not talking about 9 months in. But even with that, it's like,
Like,
what kind of spark are we talking about? And don't no stop because I'm about to start laughing. But you know what I'm saying. Like I know exactly what you're saying, right? But
no, no,
listen,
no.
listen.
A spark of, okay, I'm attracted to this person physically. I like looking at this person. There has to be something more than just I like hanging out with you. That you're a good friend.
Yeah, but
You're a
so I guess
great friend. But
that's another question though,
when I'm
right?
looking at this man's eyelashes, I'm looking at his eyelashes like, oh, he has really nice
And
eyelashes.
that's
And
the
that
only
is the
thing.
only thing.
So at that point, you should have been clocked out. But I guess my point is like, well, then let me pose this question to you. Let's say that the person checks all the boxes as far as like things that matter like internally, right? The things that you can't pay for to change, right? Um, this person has a great relationship with Christ, like he's a leader, he's active in his community. And let's say that he's not like, let's say he's just like, oh, this is gonna sound crazy, but let's say he's just a little bit not your type, right? Well, let's just say he's not your type. Let's just wholly say
Um,
that because what I was gonna say is gonna sound hilarious.
you was gonna say a little bit
I was, but
ugly.
I don't
You was
like.
gonna
I
say a
don't
little bit
like. I really
ugly.
actually don't like the way that sounds. But let's just say he's just not your type in the physical sense, right?
Okay.
Like, at what do we get wrapped up too much in the physical? Like, I will, I'm asking you that, but I'm also going to answer it. And I will say that while I think you should have some level of attraction to a person, right? That's a preference, right? I will also say that
Right.
love and attraction grows as the relationship grows, if it's a good, solid relationship, right? Um, I
Yeah.
think a lot of today's issue, and not just today, but I think a lot of stuff today, what people are looking for is superficial. And I'm not saying what you're looking for is superficial, but I think a lot of times,
Yeah. No.
that's probably why that's exactly why I was asking the question about like the spark, right? Because what if you actually meet your person and you don't have that spark initially, but you're getting that sense from the Holy Spirit, like this is your person.
Oh, I'm down. Obviously, I'm down to wait it out 9 months in,
But are you really?
but it has to be. But no, really, that was my question. I said, at what point do you think like, all right, I'm enjoying spending time with this person. They check off all the boxes on
Yeah.
my list, but I still don't have this romantic attraction towards them,
Mm. I, mm,
right? Or I don't feel even from them a romantic attraction
mm-hmm,
towards me,
mm-hmm.
right? So when you both feel the same way, when should you say, you know what? I think we're better
No,
off as
honestly,
friends.
I think we answered
At
that,
what
but
point?
I'll go back and I would say for me, I would say one date, unless you just know, like I just don't like this way, like myself, right? Like I don't want to never see you again. One is it, right? If I'm enjoying this person's company, but I'm like, there's something I can't, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, let me explore this more. Like he's not my type, but let me explore this more. I think at max, and I mean absolute max, 3 dates. if by 3 dates you're still like something, you know what I mean, like something, and not like you said, not that you don't enjoy the person's company, but you're like, I don't foresee
Right.
this going further, and I'm getting the feeling that this person feels the same
Right.
way about me. By 3, for sure, you just need to bring it up and be like, hey, I don't know if it's just me or not, but like, I like you, I'm enjoying our time, but I see this more platonically. No harm, no foul, because if that person
I
says
think
the
we're gonna have.
same,
I
you're like, all right, great. Then we can choose to be
Right.
friends. You know what I mean? Now you've earned, you gained a friend, but you don't waste
Absolutely.
months of your months of your life.
Right. No, not at all. I think we're actually gonna have to do a
I
part
think
two
so.
on it because it like there's so much involved. There's so many nuances. Um, I think we're definitely gonna have to do a part two. So if you got this far in this episode, we encourage you to definitely send us some of your stories, both
Yeah.
good and bad. We would love to hear from you. And just, we just want to hear your comments regarding uh, just anything that we've said or spoken about regarding dating, and definitely dating as a Christian, dating, being abstinent. We want you to sound off. So please, please get in our comments because we would love to
Yeah,
hear
we would
from you.
love to hear this. Maybe we should have a segment if enough people want to share. Maybe you guys, if you want to send stories, email them to us at saltandlightheartedness@gmail.com. Or can they leave it on the website?
And
You can
leave it
go
right
right
on
to
the
our
website. We have
website,
a whole space on the website.
saltandlightheartedness.com, and like leave your stories there. And maybe if we have enough, we could actually do a segment where we're reading or sharing the stories. And we can do it anonymously, or or we'll just use initials or make up names or whatever. But that might be very fun because I definitely have more wild stories. But I would we would love to hear the story. We would love to hear your take on like what you think about dating. Are you dating? Are you looking? Or maybe we can even get some maybe some singles want to share their profile pictures.
Listen, we're gonna get a whole little
Because
thing set up.
I feel like we know enough
sure,
people that like there's some quality people hiding out. And so maybe we need to call you out to the surface.
We're definitely gonna do it. Maybe we do a Facebook Live situation, something.
Yeah, because I think we can go live on here, right? I think we can go live. So maybe we should do like a.
We can do a little here
like a little
Instagram.
And I'll be the moderator.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll play along for the day.
But we're gonna do a part two. Yeah. We're definitely gonna do a part two. So we thank you so much for tuning in.
Don't forget to like.
And we hope that you'll come back.
Don't forget to comment, subscribe. We are on all the platforms: TikTok, Instagram. We on Facebook.
Yep.
If we are not on Facebook, we'll be getting on Facebook to make I think we should have a little community center over there so we can actually have more time, like conversations back and forth. You can drop your prayer requests, all that kind of stuff in there. But yes, please share. If you're enjoying our conversation, share, and share again.
Until next time. See you later.